Hello, everyone, and welcome. It's great to have you all here for another edition of IRENA's Insights webinar series. My name is Deepti Siddhanti, and I'm joining you today from IRENA's Innovation and Technology Center in Bonn, Germany. Very warm welcome to those who are joining us for the first time. Let me quickly introduce you to IRENA and this webinar series. So IRENA is an intergovernmental organization and with 170 member countries and 14 states in ascension, working together to accelerate the transition to a sustainable energy future. We serve as a global hub for knowledge, policy, technology, and finance in renewable energy and international cooperation. This webinar series is one of the many ways we share insights from our research and collaboration with our members. Over the years, we've hosted more than 50 webinars on a wide range of topics, all of which you can explore on our IRENA events website. We keep these sessions brief for about 30 minutes so you can get straight to the key insights while having access to additional resources for further learning. Today, we're diving into an important topic, sustainable aviation fuels in Southeast Asia. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. We'll be hearing from Chun Cheng-go, a program officer at IRENA's Innovation and Technology Center, who specializes in bioenergy. He will walk us through key insights from IRENA's latest publication, Sustainable Aviation Fuels in Southeast Asia, a regional perspective on bio-based solution. So before we jump in, a couple of quick housekeeping notes. This session is recorded and will be available on IRENA Events website. So if you have any questions, please use the Q&A function and we'll try to address as many as possible before we can end the webinar. So with that, let's get started. CS, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Deepti, for the introduction. I hope everything is clear from my side. Good. So good afternoon to everyone joining us from Asia, and good morning to those in Europe. Thank you all for being here today. As some of you may have already noticed, recently IRENA published a report focusing on SAF development in Southeast Asia, with a particular emphasis on bio-based solutions. If you haven't had the chance to read the full report, I encourage you to do so. And for this short webinar, I will provide some key highlights and insights from our findings. Right, so at IRENA, we approach SAF within the broader context of the global energy transition. So let's start by acknowledging a key challenge in decarbonizing the energy sector. While electrification is a crucial pathway, it's not a universal solution. Some sectors, such as cement, steel, shipping, and aviation, require dispatchable energy carriers that go beyond electricity. And aviation alone accounts for approximately 3% of the world's total energy consumption and around 2% of global anthropogenic emissions. If we are to achieve full decarbonization in this sector, we must explore every viable solution. Recently, this sector, the aviation sector, has gained significant attention regarding the role of SAF. While we continue to see rapid technological advancements, it is unlikely that we will see fully electric long-haul flights by 2050, at least to our current knowledge. This means that aviation will still require high energy density, dispatchable fuels. And among the available options, liquid biofuels emerge as the most practical one in terms of relevance and readiness. They may seamlessly integrate with existing infrastructure and require minimal modifications compared to other options. And if produced sustainably, SAF has the potential to reduce aviation emission by up to 65%. In 2021, IRENA published a global study on biojet fuels. And this is then followed by several studies on biomass availability, particularly in the global south. Some of you may have already seen these reports before. So building up on this foundation, we recently completed a new study focusing on SAF development in Southeast Asia. Now, this study provides estimates of the potential of SAF production from sustainable feedstock in the region through various pathways and incorporate regional perspective drawn from discussions with country representatives and industry experts across Southeast Asia. Now, one of the most pressing questions is, will there be enough feedstock to meet growing SAF demand by 2030 and 2050? And if not, what supply gap remain? So our previous study provides a good starting point. Residues and waste are often highlighted as primary feedstocks. However, not all theoretically available biomass can be practically mobilized. We define the portion that can be sustainably utilized as the technical potential. As you can see in this slide, our previous findings indicate that in Southeast Asia, only 47% of the theoretical biomass potential can be technically mobilized. If you look carefully, the percentage is even lower in other regions. Now, in the new study, we break this down by country. As you can see in the slide, the picture becomes clearer. As shown in this graph, the dark green bars represent SAF potential from residues and waste, the technical potential, while the gray dots show projected SAF demand in 2050 at 70% blend. Now, notably, in Malaysia, residues and waste fall far short of meeting demand. Now, Thailand and the Philippines may just manage, and not surprisingly, Singapore faces significant challenges in sourcing feedstock to meet the large demand. On the other hand, Indonesia shows exceptional potential. Now, one should note that despite Southeast Asia's wealth of bioresources, mobilization remains a major challenge. Readily available feedstock like used cooking oil or UCO and other waste oils are rather limited. We need to recognize that there is also stiff competition for these resources. In many cases, agricultural residues like empty fruit bunches are considered by the industry to be better utilized for other purposes, either mulching, on-site power generation, or new uses like conversion into biochar is also competing for the feedstock. And additionally, future demand from other transportation sectors like shipping and road transportation will intensify this competition for feedstock to produce SAF. Now, in the event of multiple end uses of technically available residues and waste, and also mobilization feasibility, the gap between supply and demand may grow even larger. So to provide a quantitative basis, now we compare with the scenario of 50% mobilization. As you can see in this graph, the light green bars depicted here, they represent technical potential of SAF from residues and waste with 50% mobilization. Now, what we can see here is almost all countries, or most countries, will not be able to supply sufficient feedstock for SAF. Even Indonesia can barely scrape by. Here, the light green bars, and compare with the gray dots. So, to ensure a long-term feedstock supply and also sustainability, we need additional cost-effective solutions tailored specifically for the region. This means we have to explore feedstocks beyond the low-hanging fruits. Now the question is, where can we get these feedstocks? One potential option that has been discussed is cultivating energy crops on underutilized, low-carbon land. But for this, we have to be extremely careful. Now, what kind of land we are looking at? What exactly is unutilized low carbon land? At the moment, there are multiple terms used to describe land for such purpose, such as abundant land, degraded land, or marginal land. Whatever terms used, there are a few basic criteria, at least exclude land that should not be used for energy crops. Now, very broadly speaking, it has to be not forested, low in carbon and biodiversity, and not used for agriculture to avoid competition with food production. However, definitions may vary widely depending on local context, especially when we look at it in different countries and regions. But globally, estimates may range from 1 to 6 billion hectare, um, and this is a very large range. So this implies that we have to be really careful with the estimates of such land availability. For Southeast Asia, we made some rough estimates. This graph illustrates the rough estimates of unutilized low carbon land area in the region. Now, based on the criteria I explained just now. So as you can see here, Indonesia leads with 31 million hectares. The dark green bars here. And followed by Myanmar with about 24 million hectare, and the Philippines with 9 million hectares. While this potential looks promising, we must approach these estimates very cautiously. First and foremost, we will have to look into the governance. We will need good governance and properly designed and implemented land regulations to avoid unintended consequences, like what happened in the past in the region. And the bottom line is we should not touch any areas sensitive to carbon, biodiversity, and other ecosystem services. This is especially crucial as now we have advancements in high resolution monitoring, remote sensing, and all these offer countries sorry, in Southeast Asia better tools and cheaper ways for oversight and planning. Now, so how much exactly we can obtain from energy crop cultivation based on these rough estimates? Let's make a hypothetical scenario where we only use less than 10% of this land, yeah? So let's say Indonesia have 31 million hectare and we are talking only about less than 3 million hectare. Okay. So in this hypothetical scenario, we assume there will be three types of crops here. High yield energy crops. So we have oil crops, sugar crops, and microalgae. With these assumptions or with these settings, the region could produce up to about 80 million tons of SAF annually. And this is nearly enough to meet projected demand at 70% blend. And as you can as expected, Indonesia shows the greatest potential due to its large land area, contributing over 1/3 of the total output. Now, however, as we consider energy crops, it's critical to develop clear guidelines, as I explained earlier, to avoid unintended consequences. And we have to do this as early as possible if we already know that we don't have enough feedstock from residues and waste. Because as I mentioned earlier, the implications and the consequences could be significant. Now, the key lies within how we integrate energy crop or self-production into broader land use planning. It has to be part of this broader land use planning. It cannot be a standalone thing. This is essential to ensure sustainability, protect food security, and also promote carbon storage. Well, at the moment, crop-based SAF still remains contentious, but as shown in this study, uh, relying on residues and waste could be risky in terms of feedstock supply. So we might want to shift our focus, um, whether it can be produced or not from energy crops and how it aligns with sustainability goals. Well, ultimately, a strategic approach to energy transition is needed, particularly in emerging regions with limited financial resources. And what I have described or explained earlier, uh, we have to put all this into the long-term perspective of energy transition for Southeast Asia. So it's not only for the couple of years ahead or just responsive kind of uh, responses, but in order to have the region achieve its energy transition goals, we really have to look into different kind of options here, especially options at reasonable cost while generating also socioeconomic benefits and minimizing environmental impacts. Now let's consider the other end, the roles of the off-takers, especially Singapore and to a lesser extent Brunei Darussalam. Their demand for SAF in this region could significantly influence regional supply-demand dynamics. And I think Malaysia should also be considered as the country may struggle to meet its SAF needs in long term, even with energy crops cultivated, as shown in the earlier graph. So similarly, Thailand, with its higher jet fuel consumption, is likely to face also long-term feedstock deficits. In contrast, countries like Cambodia, Laos, PDR, and Myanmar, with lower jet fuel demands and substantial SAF potential, could play a pivotal role. Indonesia is an exception with its vast surplus of underutilized low-carbon land and also residues and waste emerges as a key contributor and also a key consumer in the future. So this uneven distribution of resources highlights the need for cross-border trade and partnerships to balance regional supply and demand effectively. However, achieving this will require significant investment, as you can expect. Rolling out incentives for mass cultivation of energy crops may take years. And foreign direct investment will be crucial to spur both upstream and downstream expansion, feedstock production, establishing SAF facilities, and open avenues for trade. Now, to date, the region has already attracted investment commitments from countries like Japan, Australia, China, aimed at building a sustainable SAF supply chain. It's worth exploring how international trade and investment can further support SAF production in high potential countries. Now, another critical aspect is feedstock allocation. Um, we must strategize how bioresources are distributed among competing sectors like road transportation um, and also shipping. We may have to consider prioritizing hard-to-abate sector like aviation and shipping, which have fewer alternatives um, for decarbonization compared to road transportation where we can use electric vehicles. So we need to think about how to shift more bioresources towards these hard-to-abate sectors. Now, there are also non-energy users like materials, fertilizers, and biochar, etc., competing for feedstock. So the policymakers have to take all this into consideration. Now, given the scale of SAF demand, um, the involvement of local stakeholders, particularly farmers and communities, is essential. So, looking at the socio-economic side of things, activating underutilized low-carbon land that are not being used for food production, and now we activate it for self-production, offers new economic opportunities, such as increased income for smallholders, access to technical assistance and market integration, thanks to incentive from the aviation sector. Now, these benefits not only support rural development, but also reduce risk associated with unsustainable land use if we put in place proper governance system. So the question is, can it be done or not? I'm going to show you an example in the region, um, Vietnam. As you can see from this graph, Vietnam's forest area has been increasing tremendously in the past 3-4 decades. And notably, its plantation forest has expanded significantly without, without sacrificing naturally regenerating forests. The forest-based bioeconomy has been growing rapidly, including biomass production for bioenergy, particularly wood pellets. So it gives us some ideas uh, whether this can be done or not. But this comes with a critical condition, um, where many may have overlooked. That is the population density. The availability of labor force allows such a rapid expansion. But if we look at other countries like Indonesia, this condition may not exist. For example, Kalimantan, the Indonesian Borneo, has a large tract of underutilized low-carbon land, but the population is scarce. And we learn from history that large-scale migration of labor force can be risky, even within the same country, and may cause unwanted socio-economic and environmental consequences. So importantly for energy crop production, local socio-economic conditions must be considered. Farmers' familiarity, their preference for certain crops, as well as labor availability should guide this transition to energy crop cultivation. Well, in any case, developing a national or regional policy framework could help to support the creation of an safe ecosystem. It's not only downstream, but covering the entire supply chain from upstream to end use. Now, such a framework would facilitate the transition to growing energy crops across vast areas of unutilized land, especially in terms of ensuring sustainability. Now, let's turn to the regional and country perspective in SAF development across Southeast Asia. Just to give a quick overview, one should note that the level of advancement varies significantly across the region. Singapore is probably the most active player at the moment, followed by Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, and the Philippines. And on the demand side, most Southeast Asian countries remain largely reactive to market signals rather than adopting a proactive approach. Currently, there are no subsidies or direct incentives in place, nor are there any planned. Instead, adoption is being driven by mandates funded through traveler surcharges. So the travelers have to pay for the premiums. Now, in a way, um, the attention of the policymakers has been more on the supply side. Yeah? Self-production is supported as part of broader industrial development strategies, and at some point, to some countries, is more export-oriented industry. There are fiscal and non-fiscal incentives offered to attract investment, as what we can see in Thailand, in Malaysia, and also some progress in the other countries. However, there are also some challenges. Implementation remains slow due to the involvement of multiple ministries, harmonization of rules, regulation across agencies, as well as local governments when it comes to supply. So better coordination between agriculture, transport, industry, energy, foreign affairs, and local governments will be needed. Um, in addition, foreign partnerships may play a critical role. Not may, but will play a critical role. Yeah, countries like Australia, China, Japan, and more are collaborating with Southeast Asian nations, including Malaysia, the Philippines, and Thailand, as I mentioned before, attract investment in the countries to establish self-production facilities. And as I said, that these initiatives are often export-oriented, which could intensify feedstock competition within the region. So from IRENA point of view, this is very important because we are looking at energy transition in the region itself. Nevertheless, we still need foreign investment. It remains crucial to provide capital and technology to scale production in Southeast Asia. Lastly, and also most importantly, ensuring the sustainability of feedstock is a pressing issue for Southeast Asia, especially as energy crops, if we want to introduce energy crops into the equation. This is because, as we can see in the past, large-scale or mega projects in the region have raised concerns about environmental impacts from biofuel production. So we have to be really, really careful with that. But again, we cannot ignore the fact that we need supply for biofuel in the aviation sector, because this is the most feasible options we have right now to decarbonize the sectors. So these are the things we need to consider. And maybe we will also want to further explore alternative feedstocks like microalgae and also non-standard coconuts like in the Philippines or Indonesia. All these feedstocks present interesting opportunities, although they come with their own challenges, but they do deserve the attention. Now, looking ahead, a coordinated regional framework for self-production and trade could help address these challenges. The region needs to work together. I mean, the countries in the region need to work together in order to balance competition, foster sustainability, and also ensure more equitable distribution of resources. This framework could leverage the existing ASEAN Sustainable Aviation Action Plan, which provides a platform to share best practices in aviation decarbonization, exchange information, and collaborate. One critical step is harmonizing the sustainability requirement across the region, and also aligning trade policies and ensure smooth cross-border exchange of SAF and feedstock. And one thing our report, in our report, we also recommend to explore the adoption of a book and claim system. This system allows SAF producers and allies to trade SAF credits, making it possible for countries without domestic production like Singapore to meet SAF mandates while supporting gradual scaling of production across the region. So I think I'm running out of time, as I can see 50 turn on her video. But this is the last slide. So yeah, probably I will stop here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Chen Cheng. Yeah, we unfortunately don't really have time for any more questions, but please, if you have any specific questions, please reach out to us on IRENA Events website. So with that, a huge thank you to you, Chen Cheng, for sharing useful insights on feedstock availability and specific regional assessments for SAF development in Southeast Asia. And of course, a big thank you to all of you for joining us and engaging with us. Just as a reminder, today's recording and slides will be available on IRENA Events website. So with that, have a great rest of your day, and we hope to see you all at our next IRENA Insights webinar. Thank you.
Thank you.